Hi there, this is Phil Simborg from the Backgammon Learning Center, and I am one of the teachers on the team. And I have with me the great Steve Sax, who's going to join me this morning to go over some positions that came up recently in the Chouette. We're looking at the Backgammon Learning Center site where we have 25 teachers, and I think we're up to 11 languages now where we teach. And Steve Sax is one of our featured teachers. He's been a giant for many, many years. I think he was ranked, his highest ranking was number 7 in the world at one point, and he's been
It was actually 6, but that was the year I voted twice.
Okay, I thought you got down to 7. I don't mean to slight you, but I'm one of the best teachers in the world. But more important to me, he's a good friend, a great sport over the board, and really knows the game well. So today we're going to have some fun. Yesterday we had our typical Chicago Chouette. It was the 31st of December. We couldn't think of a better way to bring in the new year than to play Chouette all afternoon. We had about 5 or 6 players most of the time, and I took pictures of about 20 positions. Steve does this a lot too, anytime we're not sure, but I found that the best 10 positions that I think were the most interesting, that at least one of us missed, and we bet on many of these positions. I actually did very well in the betting. I got most of the bets right, and I got clobbered in the Chouette, so go figure. A couple days earlier, I was the big winner and the only winner in the Chouette, and I lost 2 bets. So it's just crazy how this works. But I'm gonna give Steve a quiz. He has not seen these positions. I'm going to say the over/under on Steve is 7. I would say my guess is he's going to get 7 or more of these right, and we'll find out. But the most important thing is we'll be able to discuss these positions and find out why they caused us problems. I'm very proud of the Chicago Chouette. We're all open players and pretty good players and very competitive. So these are not going to be real easy, but they all came up over the board. They're all money games, and I'm going to put Steve to the quiz now, so to speak, to the fire. Ready, Steve?
I'm ready. This is going to be fun. First quiz of the year.
Okay, your first quiz
That's
of the year.
the opening position. I got that one.
You got this one right. And here's our first position. These are all money games again. This is blue on roll, cube action. And when I say cube action, I want to know, should blue double? And if blue double, should red take or pass? So, Steve, take your time. What would you do over the board?
All right, well, anytime you got the 22-point anchor, you can consider to take a cube if all the elements are in place. And one of the elements would be the race, of course. Here, you're down 5 pips as red. It's not that great. The board distribution is very weak for red because one of the goals for the blue side, the blocking side, is to try and get their opponent to either break their anchor or break their board. Now, looks like this is about to occur. Red only has one number to completely escape, which is double 5s. And 6 5s would be forced out, which will give them a chance to escape the last checker, but also give them a chance to get pointed on. And they're not even roll yet, so we don't know what blue's going to roll. But back to the question, so, you know, the standard Pratt, pips position and threats, well, the pips is not that bad. The relative position is kind of bad, although the gammons are, you know, limited. I mean, red's not going to get gammon that often. As far as threats are concerned, I mean, really the threat, and this is something interesting to think about, a lot of times people think the threat really comes from the side that's doubling the sun roll, but the volatility of the position here indicates that really the threat is, it's a negative threat for the side not on roll, that's being doubled, as to what they're going to roll. The volatility, for the most part, comes from what is red going to roll. Back to the question, okay, 5 pips, builders, you know, you got a gap, you got pieces out of play, so it's a little worse than 5. I can't imagine it's a huge pass, but it's very, very unpleasant position, so what am I really going to do here? There is a gap, you know, red's got a gap. I'll pass it. All right, 0 for 1?
So that also means, of course, that you would double.
Yeah, double this. A cube, center cube, double and pass for me.
Yeah. And by the way, for the sake of people watching, we do use the Jacoby rule. You can't win a gammon unless you double in a money game. And Steve, here's the answer. I've already either rolled these out or hit them at plus plus. and it was a big pass. You nailed it, and here's what I like about what Steve did. When he first came to the conclusion, he used basically Woolsey's law without saying it out loud. He asked himself first, would I take or pass? And once he determined that using Woolsey's law, you ask yourself, if you would pass, you know for sure it's a double. You don't have to worry about do you have market losers or whatever. So he started with whether he would take or pass. Came to the conclusion it's a pass, so automatically it's a double. And Steve, if you had come to the conclusion that you weren't quite sure if it's a take or pass, then using Woolsey's law, I assume you would also use the same rules that Woolsey and I use, and that if you're not sure if it's a take or pass, you would still double. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'll even double if it's if I think it's not a double, if I can infer some kind of hesitation on my opponent's part, either by their past tendencies or their current, like, body language.
Okay, just to give you a little color background on this, I passed this cube. I correctly passed it. Other people took it and told me I was a fool to pass because you're only down 5 pips and you might get a shot. And I think, down 5 pips and you might get a shot. If this board, if Red's board were better, it certainly could easily be a take down 5 pips. But in this position, Steve nailed it. He's 1 for 1. Let's move on because I want to get through all 10 in less than 40 minutes or an hour. Let's go a little faster. And number 2, Steve's 1 for 1. All right. Number 2 is another cube problem. Again, blue is on roll. And again, the question is, should blue double and should red take or pass?
Well, undoubtedly, blue should double here. Pip's position threats. Say he has a prime, he has his opponent outboarded. He or she, whatever. Aces and deuces move up, 6s pop out. 5s and 4s close the board, close the points. So really, only 3s are bad, and only some 3s are bad. I mean, still 6-3 plays, and so really, it's the monster double, plus that extra blot out on the 16 point just makes the gammon that much more likely. I would pass here.
Okay. Steve, you're 2 for 2. And again, you would LA and not Chicago. Nothing personal, but I play Chouettes with you many times in LA and other places, and I avoid players like you, and here's a good reason why. And this was taken in the Chouette, and again, I got this right because I didn't have the problem because I was on the blue side because I was doubling. But all of this is obviously a very big pass. For those of you not familiar with XG, it's a .20 error. A blunder is .48, so like almost a triple blunder to take this cube. But one of the reasons that somebody might take this cube is because they thought blue might not get out and might do some crashing. And even if blue does roll something that doesn't get out right away, you still got a decent and strong position. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but safety the checker on the 16 point. Put them on like on the 8, for example, see how much that changes it.
Wow.
Borderline.
Wow. Yeah, but you can see it's a huge difference. It went from a .20 pass to a borderline. Just that one extra pip, because one thing it does is changes the gammons a lot, too. It went down to 25% gammons. What were we at before?
Well, that was on the 16, but, I don't know, 40%?
Yeah, it's a huge difference in gammons. So that's one of the major things. It probably affects the wins as well. Good catch, Steve. Very good. You're 2 for 2. Let's go on. Maybe I'm a long guy to do this with. It's not going to be exciting if you get everything right. Well, I guess you'll be excited. And by the way, Steve's explanations will give you an indication of why he's such a great teacher, and so many of the students have applauded his work and have gone on to become very good players themselves. Okay, on roll cube action.
All right, so blue's on roll. Well, he's pretty substantially ahead in the race. But he does have 3 checkers behind a prime, and one of them's not even at the edge. He has some bad numbers. Double 5 is pretty bad. Double 4 is even worse. Double 3s is unhelpful. So the question you want to ask yourself here is that what is the market losing situation? Because if blue pops out with a 6, I mean 6-1 or double 6 would be exceptional, but 6-3 for example, let's say blue rolls a 6-3 and red stays out. So would red still have a take after that? And I think maybe, but maybe not. So this, I mean, but how horrible is this to double here? I mean, it's like a lot has to happen for, I'm definitely taking here. There's no doubt I'm taking. The question I'm going to ask is whether it's a double or not. If you lose your market by enough with one of your good numbers, then it's undoubtedly a double. So if you're using O'Hagan's law with net market losers, was it 9 or 10 or something?
9.
9? Okay.
9.
So it's, I think of things...
Excuse me, Steve. This is a redouble. So in a redouble, John says you need to have 10 or 11 market losers.
Okay, well, any 6 is potentially a market loser, and anything else isn't a market loser. I mean, even ace deuce isn't anything close to a market loser. But one thing that you got to think about is not only the number of market losers, but there's 2 other things you need to think about. You need to think of the magnitude of the market loss. Because if the market loss is so substantial, you actually need fewer market losers because the reward is so much higher. Also, you want to think about your negative market, negative rolls. I mean, if you have something that's...
Market losers. We call them anti-market losers.
Yeah, so if you have enough anti-market losers, like double 4 and double 5 and double 3 potentially, then you got to subtract those. But, I mean, sometimes if I'm counting the market losers, if it's an exceptional number, so let's say it's a 4-2 that loses your market, but it's exceptional, I'll count that as like 3 or 4. But if it's something that just barely loses your market, I'll count it as the standard value or even possibly less. So it's a little bit of a guessing game going on. Anyway, back to your original question. So take for sure. I mean, no doubt take. One thing in favor of not redoubling is you don't have to turn the cube to win gammons. It's been activated. So, as you stated before, you need to have 10 or 11 market losers. So I am taking here. Am I doubling? Is blue. Let's see. 6. I think actually it's a wait. I could be so wrong here, but I'll wait.
You're right again. As a matter of fact, this is a beaver.
Holy cow!
It's that bad a double, and it's a very sizable beaver. Over the board, this was doubled, and I think it was half took and half passed. And I was not in the game. I had dropped earlier, so I can't say I got it right or wrong. But this is actually a huge beaver.
Well, I think I kind of got it wrong because I said double, but also take. So, however you want to score that.
You said you would double, or you said you wouldn't double? I thought you said you wouldn't double.
I don't even remember.
You said you would wait.
I said no double, no take. Okay, but I wasn't smart. I wasn't smart enough to figure out the beaver part, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's the credit. Again, because this is going to be on YouTube and watched by a wider audience, when Steve talks about market loser, what the definition of a market loser is, that means it's a roll that where you roll and then he rolls, and on the next sequence he could pass. So if you get a pass if it's a take now and you get a pass on the next roll after that rolling sequence, that's what a market loser is. You lost your market. The price is too high for him to take the cube. And that's a key factor. If you know, again, using Woolsey's law, if you believe your opponent has a take, the only reason to double is, aside from the human factors, is if you are going to get a pass too often the next time or lose your market too often the next time. And John O'Hagan, another one of our teaching partners, came up with O'Hagan's law that says on initial doubles, if you have a net of 9 market losers, you probably have a double. And Steve pointed out very well, it depends on how much you lose your market by. If you lose it by a lot, it's going to be a stronger double. If you just barely lose it, it might not even be a double, even with 9 market losers. But to redouble, no matter what your situation, certainly in a money game, you must be stronger to redouble than to double because you're giving away the power of holding the cube. So this would be a very, very poor redouble. As a matter of fact, as you can see from the numbers, Blue's not even a favorite in this game. He's going to lose. He does win a lot more gammons if things go well, but he loses more games than Red does in this game. So we do play beavers and no raccoons in our chouette, but we seldom see beavers, and I'm one of those people that believes that you shouldn't beaver too much because you don't want to rub it in if somebody's playing that badly. All right, very good, Steve. I'm going to give you 3 right on this one. Missing a beaver is okay because, again, I know you feel somewhat the same way. if you're much better than players, which Steve usually is in the Chouette, well, you don't want to rub it in and make it lose too much in one game, or you might lose your fish. So,
well, you've never seen me beaver you in a Chouette, have you?
No, because I don't think I've given you that bad a cube. I'm too afraid of you. Okay, let's move on. Number 4.
All right.
Number 4 is a checker play problem now. Red to play double aces. The cube is in the center, and another priming kind of game. So how do you play double aces for red?
Well, the natural first 2 is the 5-point, and then you got to decide: are you going to make the bar, or are you going to make the 9-point, or are you going to safety 9 to 8, and then move your back checker up? The determining factors here for me are, several, but one of them is that how likely are you going to get primed in? Let's say you make the 9-point. How likely are you going to get primed in the next roll? Well, blue only has 2 builders to block you in, so the need to get up to the edge of the prime there is not really super strong at this point. By making this play, you're not leaving any shots, which is, I think, really good. But your numbers are somewhat duplicated in that, 6s jump out and 6s, 6-2. Well, and maybe it's just 6-2. Actually, 6-2 is pretty. Well, that blue checker might not be there on the 9-point, but 6-2 is very much duplicated. It's a pretty involatile position after that. So back to the original position. Let's take a look real quick here. Okay, so let's see. Another choice is to make the 5-point. Let's go 6 to 5 twice, and 8 to 7 twice. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this play, if you make this play, you can get hit with 6-1, 6-3, 6-2, and I think that's it. Now, that's 6 numbers. Now, 6-2 is duplicated because it makes the bar on the other side of the board. But, I mean, are you really improving your position that much by, making the bar point as opposed to... And you only have 1 back, so it's less critical that you get that back checker out. And your opponent is not that likely to block you in, as I said before. I don't even think we need to look at the last one. I'm just making the 9-point and the 5-point.
Okay. Steve, you're 4 for 4.
All right.
Over the board, what happened is the player making the play, and I'm not going to name names of people when they get things wrong, but the player making the play thought it was important to step up and made that play, which is this play, which is a pretty big error. It's 15 blunder. Steve, again, read it perfectly. I honestly wasn't sure it was that terrible to hit that play. I thought it was... I would have made the right play, but I thought it was a lot closer than this. I had no idea that this would be that bad. Let's look at it. Why is this so bad again?
Well, first of all, you're giving your opponent 5-4 and 6-4 to hit, so that's 4 numbers. And I mean, each one of those numbers is nearly 3%, so it's about 11% that you're just basically in pretty bad shape. I mean, yeah, you could come in and anchor and then...
Isn't he going to hit you loose with a 6-2 or a 5-3 also? Here? Would he hit you loose there? A 6-2 big point maybe, I don't know.
We can't hit with the...
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a 7. 4-3.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he might hit you loose with a 7, but, desperate circumstances, maybe he'll hit you loose with an 8, although that would be far less effective. And moving up, he can roll double ace or double deuce and switch on you with much more effectiveness than he can if the red checker was back in the 24-point. But it just, it's like Mary Hickey and Marty Storr would say, what's your game plan? So I don't think it's trying to escape at this point. I think it's trying to block your opponent in. You have one checker back, they have 2 checkers back, and they don't have a real strong setup to block you in. If they had the builders lined up to make the bar point much more strongly, then you might play it differently.
Gotcha. Okay, again, I want to stress to everybody, Steve has not seen these problems before. He's getting them all right. And again, I'm so glad that you're not in our Chouette on a regular basis. Although you're always welcome. We welcome visitors anytime. Okay, number 5. Another checker play problem. Red to play 4-2. And I got this one wrong.
I would make the ace point because it's not that easy for blue to hit here. I mean, if blue rolls a 3-2, that's fantastic. If they roll double 3s, it's decent. If they roll 3-5, it's decent. But it's not that easy for blue to effectively hit here, and you're a little bit ahead in the race, not much, but you're ahead. What is it, 9 and 6? You're up 15 minus their average of 8, so you're right to be up on about 7 pips on your next roll, and you're running out of time here, so you're probably going to be forced. You have your opponent outboarded substantially, and you're running out of time, so you're probably going to be a good chance you're going to be forced to either break your board or jump off the anchor. And if you do jump off, you don't want to break your board, but if you do jump off the anchor, you'd really much rather have that 5-point board. So for the two reasons of, the multiple reasons of, it's not that easy for blue to hit. Red has their opponent outboarded, and red's ahead in the race, and their timing's going. I think they got to just make the point and get ready to run the next roll.
Okay, 5 for 5. You nailed it again. There's your answer. I was more afraid of getting hit than you were, and I really was torn between playing 7-1 or 13-7, and I to make 7-1, which isn't a terrible mistake, but certainly far worse than your play. So what's so bad about my play, 7-1?
Well, for starters, if you don't get hit, you want to be able to play like numbers like 5-1 and 5-2. Actually, 5-2 wouldn't be that great, but it'd be playable. If you but 5-1 is a huge swing on 5-1. 4-2 is a transposition. There's no difference. But if you make my play, as opposed to this one, and you roll 5-1 in the next shake, you can play it without breaking an anchor or a point in your board. And it doesn't necessarily come down to like, one number like 5-2. That's just the added advantage of making the 4-point. But really, so you were asking why was your choice not so good?
I can see now one other thing. I'm so totally stripped here that any 5 or 6 I roll, or even combinations 4-3 or anything with anything higher than a 2-1 or a 3-1, I'm going to be in real big trouble next roll anyway.
Yeah, and going back to making the deuce point, the ace point, take a look at that for a second. Something that I hadn't noticed, which you kind of just mentioned, was that the 6 is playing much better for red. Look at 6-2 here. We're not sure what blue's going to roll, but let's say they roll, let's say they roll a 5-2 and make their ace point. Now red rolls something like a 6-2, and they get to make their, another blocking point. They're not leaving a direct shot, and giving itself better timing to continue playing the game without having to either break their board or break their anchor.
So what Steve is really doing in these kinds of positions, and what the experts are doing, is what we call MCV, most common variation. He's guessing what's is likely to happen on the next roll after blue rolls and after red rolls, and looking at those combinations and looking at the plus and minuses of both plays. Steve was able to do it almost instantaneously because he's good so many years. How many years have you been at this game? 50? 40?
Well, no, I didn't start, when I was a child, but I started when I was a teenager, and my first tournament was in 1976. I was 15, so
okay.
Playing tournament backgammon for 42 years.
Okay, so tournament backgammon for 42 years, and probably spent as many hours studying positions in Snowy and XG and Canoe as anybody. So he can do this relatively quickly. But notice there's something else that he did in this position and the other one, which you're allowed to do in backgammon. You move the checkers and look at it and see what it looks like. It's easier to do it because you're allowed to move them and put them back. In chess, you can't. In chess, you make the move and that's it. It's touch move. And so since the rules allow us, and that's debatable, some people think we should play chess move and backgammon, but since you're allowed to, this is a good hit from Steve. When you're looking at possible plays, make the move, take a look at it, see what you think is going to happen on the next roll, then put it back and make your other play and look at those and compare the two. All right, Steve, you're 5 for 5. Let's move on. This is very impressive. I think my over-under 7 is starting to look a little bit low. Okay, we're going to number 6. Position number 6 is another cube action problem with blue on roll. Should blue double, and if blue double, should red take or pass?
Oh boy. So it definitely seems like a double because, they both players have a 5-point board, but reds, first of all, blues on roll can hit with a 7, a 10, a 4. So there's quite a few numbers where blue's going to have, and not to mention double 2 and double 4 close the board. So, how many, there's 6 7s and plus 3 10s, that's 9. Double 1, double 2, double 4. Now we're up to 12, so thank you, Mr. O'Hagan. It's not exactly for sure a market loser if you hit, but it's pretty strong. Actually, I didn't even count, so maybe I did count that. But no, I didn't count ace-3, that's worth something. So for sure I'm doubling this here. Even though we're down in the race, there's gammon potential, although we own the cube that you don't have to double to activate the gammons, but there's enough gammon, wins that I would probably not mind, putting the ball in my opponent's court and letting them decide what to do. Assuming it is a take, they still have the possibility of passing if you double, so you gain that. Back to the question whether it's a take or not. Blue can hit and red can anchor up, although they don't have a good play. It's not like they have a spare checker on the 5 or 6. So they may be forced to come in and out and can continue to lose shots or come in and break with like double fours would be a funny number. If you got hit with a 7 and roll double fours, that's kind of a disaster. But I would say the fact that, first of all, blue does have a decent numbers to hit with, but they don't have, a ton. And blue has the open 4-point where red's slotted there, so red can come in of the 4-1, 4-2. I don't see this being a pass because even with the pieces out of play for red, they're not getting gammoned that often. And, maybe blue's got some numbers that are kind of weak to put them in a little bit of liability. 6-2 or something, and others. So I think it's definitely a double. It's for sure a double, and I would also take.
Okay. The answer, drum roll.
Yes, sir.
Big take. And I have to tell you that I passed this cube. When you were going through the numbers that hit, you actually didn't count all the fours. Every single 4 also hits. That's 11 more. I know you mentioned 4-1 and 3-1, but when you add all those 4s, it scared me a lot more because I just thought even a hit loose in a dance is going to be a big pass. So I'm sure that would be, but there's enough. There really is a lot to take here. But this illustrates another point that Steve brought out, that when you've got a scary position where a guy might pass, even if it's not a double, it still might be a double against a human being, because you might play Phil Simborg, who might pass this cube, and I did. I really didn't see enough to take here. I was scared of gammons and hits, and I also had one other problem with this position, Steve. If he doesn't hit, I don't like red's game that much. I still think I don't see red bringing this game home that easily when blue rolls some bad number that doesn't hit. So, that was my biggest problem.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
Take here, but you're 6 for 6, and again, that's great. Let's go on. On to number 7. Another cube action problem. Of course, the cube is where the money really gets scary and gets big and backgammon. That's why we seem to take more pictures of cube plays than checker plays. And I'm sure we miss a tremendous amount of checker plays we should be looking at too. The cube is where the real volatility is in a money game. So red's on roll here, and what's the cube action? Should red double? And if red double, we take the pass.
This almost looks like a contrived position here, because, and I'm sure it wasn't because it came up in the Chouette.
Yep.
But initially I'm looking at this and saying, like, well, this is the take. I mean, the red's got 2 checkers back, and, blue's got an anchor. But the stack of 5 checkers, there's quite a few unpleasing elements for blue's position. The stack of 5 checkers makes any counterattack very limited, for, in case red comes off the anchor with a 6 or something. The blot out in the outfield is, it's an extra, little bonus there, like 6-5 hits. For red, plus all of the numbers that point. So if red rolls one of their better numbers, they went aces, deuces, and 4s, which is 9 pointing numbers. And double 6 is fantastic, and 6-5 hits. So that's just making it a double. We know it's a double. I mean, I presume it's a double. Blue does have a 4-point board, though, and here's a position where I would like. And this is a tough one. I might get my first one wrong here, but this is one where I would think about not only the number of market losers, the magnitude of the market losers, because if red points here, and blue may not come in, or even if they come in, they might come in awkwardly. So the red's up 10 pips. They got 3 builders, to make the 4th point in their board and prime. They got a few, just extraneous numbers, like 6-5 and double 6. Do they have any bad numbers? I mean, does red have... yeah, some 6s that come out, 6-3 might be the worst, but let's see. So I will go through the numbers real quickly, and just see, how they play, your pointing numbers. You might have to hit loose with a 3-1. I'm starting to think maybe it's a take. I mean, blue does have a 4-point board. This is a rough one here. I got to think just a moment about this one here.
Sure.
4-1. All right, it is unpleasant as it is. I'm going to take here. Maybe I got my first one wrong.
Okay. Here's the answer. Drum roll. And it's a big take. So,
yeah, so, in a way, I kind of intellectually got it wrong in that I thought it was close. But, I mean, it's multiple choice. I got the right answer. But my comprehension of the position in terms of equity was way off.
well, let me tell you something funny that happened with this position over the board. On the previous roll, by the way, Blue was the box. He was playing by himself against 4 or 5 players. I don't remember exactly at the time. And the previous roll was this, and not me, but somebody doubled as Red here, and obviously it's a big take if it was a take after the next play, but somebody doubled here, and the box reluctantly passed because he felt I have an untimed 2-4 back game, and he didn't think it was. And of course, this is not a double. Let's see. It's a very small double, but he passed the cue. So on the next roll, the next sequence, what we got was something. It was this, and then Blue came out to here. It was 6-5 that he gave him, right?
4-3.
Yeah. Okay. And so obviously I doubled here and he passed. It was a big, because he thought if he passed the previous time that we play individual cues here. So the box got this wrong twice. But most of us believed this was a pass because the previous time, we thought it was at least a double. So most of us got this wrong as far as the take part over the board. We would have gotten this wrong. And Steve got it right. But again, you did struggle with this take, and it's a big take. Okay.
I almost got it wrong, but I didn't. Okay.
Well, almost. I have a saying that I wrote. There are many ways to measure success, but only one you can spend. So you would have gotten the money play right here. You might have gotten it wrong intellectually, but you have put the money in your pocket. Okay, let's go to number 8. You're batting 100% on 7 so far. That's really great. I think I called the right guy to help with this with these problems.
My pleasure.
Okay, this is another cube action, and this is red on roll cube action.
All right, well, the race is even, practically. The relative position is obviously much better for red because blue's got their ace point made in a blot on their deuce. As far as opportunity for red, I mean, they can make their 3-point with a 5 or a 3. They can make a back anchor, which is not as big an issue because blue's got very little containment capability at this point. So I do see that there are numbers where you can be looking at potentially winning a game because red can play this possession either way. They can either play it very passively and just play for the block, let their opponent come in. A lot of incoming numbers will be pretty weak. Let's say red even rolls like a 2-1 and makes the 3-point. Now, the blue can come in with a 2-6 and hasn't accomplished anything, really. So red can play it passively and go for the prime, or they can play it aggressively and go for the blitz. And since their numbers are diversified in that some of the numbers are good, like 5s and 3s are good for the priming plays, and the 1s, 4s, and 6s are good for the blitz, that means that most of the numbers, if you went to dice distribution, are going to be medium to high on the depth chart. So I would go through the numbers real quickly. And I would just think, double 1s covers, 2-1 covers, 3-1 covers, 4-1 points, 5-1 makes the point, 6-1 points in your opponent. Double 2s makes the 4-point something with the last one. 5-2 makes the 3-point. 6-2 is weak, but I mean you could still make the anchor and bring a builder down. Double 3s covers, 4-3 covers. So anyway, 5-3, 6-3, double 4s. Well, double 4s, yeah, you can make the deuce point with double 4s. So I personally think that it's a little bit of an illusion that it's a take in just because the race is so close, but because of the flexibility of red's, choices here and the weakness of blue's position, I'm going to pass.
Okay. And the answer? Big pass. You nail it again. I passed this cube over the board. I got this right, and a couple of people took. And the main reason I hated this position is as blue, I hated having the ace point made. I just felt that even if things go well for me and I anchor and get a shot later, I got the damn ace point. That's what I hated. That drove me to pass more than anything else. But people who took this said, well, red doesn't really have a great blitzing position. And as you pointed out, he doesn't have to blitz. There's lots of rolls where he can just play the game without blitzing if he doesn't get the right blitzing roll. Very good. You're 8 for 8.
Okay. I'm at least going to get a B in the class.
Oh, my God. You're going to get an A no matter what. Number 9. Checker play problem. Blue to play 6-4.
Well, they own the cube, so gammons are activated. You're behind a prime, so you could just play it. You could play 13-3 and say, well, look, I'm probably going to lose. Let's just try and get off the gammon. It's a pretty unwinnable position. Or you could bring 2 down. You're definitely not hitting. There's no gain in hitting whatsoever. Or you can bring 2 down and try and prime your opponent in, which is an appealing play to a certain extent because, you know, we all want to win. And even if red hits, you know, blue could still possibly get an anchor. But you're putting as many as 4 blots, you know, in jeopardy. So, and how many numbers do hit? Well, let's see, all 6s plus 3, 3, 3, 4, and 3, 5. So that's 16 numbers hit. And numbers like, you know, 3, 1, and 3, 2, you know, they're not terrible. You could also roll... You could roll double 5s and just switch. I mean, it's not, you would probably take a re-roll, but, you know, you're still freezing those checkers potentially out on the, out of blue's outfield by when you roll double 5s, or even also double 4s. I mean, you can switch with double 4s. So that's a kind of a risky play, but you are getting paid 2-1 as far as the gammon price is concerned. You got to get gammon like twice as many additional games as, you know, games that you're attempting to win, for that even to be break even. And not only that, you could play 13-3 and still get hit. You know, your opponent could roll 4-3. So I'm prepared to make my first mistake here and just make this play.
Okay. By the way, before I tell you whether this is right or wrong, if you make this play and red rolls a 5-4, would he hit loose on the ace?
Probably, because look, what can happen if red hits loose on the ace? First of all, his opponent can dance. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, now you still have the free shot to try and go out and pick up those other blots. He could come in with the ace point hit, in which case red may dance, and then possibly just, or come in on the 4 point or hit a fly shot. Maybe the weaker sequences are if red hits loose, that blue comes in on the deuce and makes the blocking point, but it's still not over. I mean, let's just say you hit loose, blue came in with a 2-6 and made the bar point, and now red still has potential to roll a 3 and jump in, you know, to sneak out or roll blitzing numbers. So yeah, I definitely would hit loose with a 5-4.
Okay, let's see what the right play is. Wait a minute, what am I doing here? That's something else. That's the wrong position. Anyhow, you got the right play. Let me put this back. I did something wrong here, and let me just hit plus plus. I was on the team that had the 6-4 to play. I insisted that we make your play. I actually knew that I knew this position. I'd seen similar positions several times. The second best play is also slotting the 6 point. And look at this as the second best play, which shocked me. But this is the play that you came up with. This is the best play. It's the play I made, and I'm very happy to say I also won 2 side bets on this play. Of course, one of the reasons that they bet me was red's next roll was a 6-1. We got hit twice. We got gammoned. It was terrible. But, you know, like you said, the value of gammons is only half as much as the value of winning and losing the game. And you have many, many more wins with this play. As you can see, your wins go up compared to 13-3. Your wins go up by 7%. Your gammon losses go down by 12%. So those 12 gammons is worth 6 wins. So you actually come out ahead on this deal, and you have a chance to win the game this way by counter priming. But this is one of my happier moments of the day. In spite of the fact that I got killed and lost a lot in the Chouette, I won 2 bets on this. I bet 2 very good players that thought this was nuts. And again, you caught it right away. You're 100%. You've got one more problem. If you get it right, you'll be 100%, which really blows my mind. And it proves again why you want.
I feel like I'm in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I've got the $1 million question coming up.
That's right. And you know, we in Chicago we have what's called the 1,000-to-1 club. The odds of flipping a coin and getting it right 10 times in a row is 1,000-to-1. So if you win 10 matches in a row in our Chouette, you get a prize of being a member of the 1,000-to-1 club. I actually did it twice. One time I got up to 12, but that's not the record in our club. I think the record is 19. Matt Cohn-Geyer got up pretty high a couple times, and I think both times I won and stopped his run. But if you get 10 in a row, that's 1,000-to-1, and it's actually harder than flipping a coin because the choices here aren't 50-50. In the cube action, Steve has to get both sides right, and on the checker plays, he has to get the right play compared to all of them. So it's really more than 1,000-to-1. So congratulations. Let's see if he gets this last one right. Another checker play problem. Oh, it's a cube problem. It's blue on roll, cube action.
Let's see. Race is very close. Blue's got a decent, his 3s are duplicated. He's got a better board. He's got, he does have more checkers back, but, you know, so I would go through the numbers and see how they play. And you got 6s and 3s, which are kind of duplicated. But, you know, it is the money game, and you got to double to win gammons. And merely even an ace-deuce followed by a fan, you will have lost your market probably substantially. So there's no question in my mind you got to double this here. But, you know, I don't see a problem in taking it. I mean, the brace is close. Blue's got more checkers back. You know, even if he rolls like a fantastic shot like 6-3, I mean, Blue can still come in, Red can still come in on the deuce and potentially make the, you know, back anchor. And most of the time, you know, Blue's not going to roll something that's crushing, but I can't, I mean, I suppose it's possible it's a weight, but I mean, I gotta, you know, go through the numbers here, and it's like, you know, you have 3s and 6s and even some 4s, and then maybe some other numbers that don't, like, well, 5-1 can either make the prime or hit loose. Anyway, I'm going to go with double take.
Again, 100%. You got it right. Over the board, this was passed by, I think, 2 players, as I recall, who said, you know, there's enough checkers in the zone to have a blitz. You're not anchored. Didn't see much of a game for Red, and this was passed pretty quickly. And I said, wait a second, let's take a picture of this one. I really wasn't sure. I have to be honest with you, I wasn't positive about this, but I thought it might be a pass. Steve, I want to ask you one more question about this position. Obviously, I always give lessons in match play about which scores are really, really tricky scores. 2-away, 4-away is probably one of the trickiest scores in backgammon. Let's pretend that Blue was 4-away and Red was 2-away. Of course, we know
that it's going to be a huge drop.
It's a big drop at that score, and that's why match play is so much more fascinating, I think, than money play. Could it be too good to double is my question.
I wouldn't. Not with 3 bet checkers back and they're not even split.
Okay, so you're saying
like
double
0.93 or to like 1.275 or 1. No, it's much higher. Well, it's 0.96 on the no double, so not quite too good, but in the range and way high. Yeah, the 4-away, 2-away, those numbers jump up dramatically. You know,
and if you had gotten to this position at 2-away, 4-away, Blue probably made a mistake not doubling sooner anyway. It should have been. Yeah,
I can't think of a sequence where they wouldn't have made a mistake. It's possible, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Again, Steve is 10 for 10. My over-under was 7. I expected him to miss maybe 1, maybe 2. But congratulations getting all 10 right. Thank you for all the insights and information. For those of you watching this on YouTube who may not be familiar with the Backgammon Learning Center, it's www.thebackgammonlearningcenter.com. Steve is one of 25 of our great teachers teaching online all over the world and also live occasionally. And Steve, I guess I will see you in a few days in New York, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you for inviting me to join today.
Yeah, Happy New Year and congratulations on a stellar performance. And I will be seeing you very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Phil.
Happy